It is well known that superfrequency vibrations that are inaudible to the ear are dangerous to humans. Both ultra-high and ultra-low frequencies are dangerous. Both ultrasound and infrasound can very seriously affect a person, destroy not only his nervous system, but the entire body as a whole. This knowledge was available to people long before the Second World War. But the Nazis decided to turn this knowledge into reality. The military machine of the Wehrmacht was constantly engaged in the creation of secret developments that concerned the destruction of mankind. These were innovative projects on the basis of which research was conducted. But without practice, any research has no significance. And Hitler's associates actively practiced their scientific research. They did not trifle, as test subjects did not use animals or any other living organisms. Experiments were conducted immediately on humans. Naturally, no one asked for their consent. The inhabitants of the occupied territories were not considered human beings. So you could do anything you wanted with them. So the Nazis did whatever they wanted. German commanders were constantly demanding the development of new weapons of mass destruction. They didn't have to shoot. Destroying people was allowed by any means, even the most barbaric. Therefore, the Third Reich was developing not only the greatest firearms, but also the creation of chemical and bacteriological weapons, and other types of weapons. One method involved destroying a person by exposing them to strong, low-frequency sound. Prisoners from concentration camps were used as test subjects. The results were astonishing. Both infrasound and ultrasound had a devastating effect on humans. There were terrible pain and psychological syndromes. The subjects became dizzy and had stomach aches. Some had diarrhea, some vomited, some couldn't breathe. People's behavior also changed dramatically. They started to panic. Unconscious fear appeared by itself. People didn't know where to go from the fear growing inside them. Some made attempts to commit suicide. And some of the prisoners even went mad. All these horrible experiments were conducted for one purpose only: to create a sonic weapon that could destroy more and more people. The experiments showed that such a weapon could be created. Scientists were already beginning to rejoice. They managed to find a miracle weapon that would be able to destroy a huge number of the population of conquered countries in the shortest possible time. However, everything turned out to be not so simple. The experiment failed at the moment when they tried to transfer it to the testing grounds. In closed rooms, the sonic weapon worked without failure. But in the open, the researchers failed. Infrasound waves could not be directed where they were needed. They were dispersed to different points, and as a result, the researchers themselves were affected. There was another problem. The generator was too big, but its radius of effect was very small. So the military decided it was better to use the weapons they were used to, and put all their efforts into developing more effective machine guns and machine guns. After the scientists of the Third Reich failed with the use of infrasound, they decided to develop in other areas. That is, they decided to focus on other acoustic effects, which could also be used as weapons of mass destruction. One of the researchers who was involved in such developments was Dr. Richard Wallauschek. He worked at the Acoustics Research Institute in Tyrol, and he was appointed to lead a team to develop a transmitter that would cause the enemy to be concussed or even killed. The machine that was being worked on was called the sonic cannon. The final design was completed in 1944. The sound cannon had a special structure. The parabolic reflector had a diameter of 3,250 millimeters. An injector with ignition system was placed in the center of the reflector. Oxygen and methane were fed there. The explosive mixture of gases was ignited by a special device. The ignition was carried out at regular time intervals. The result was a steady, loud noise of the desired frequency. Those who were unlucky enough to be within 60 meters of the installation were instantly unconscious, and some were even killed. However, Nazi Germany was no longer able to conduct large-scale experiments. In January 1945, funding for Wallauschek's project was cut off. The Research and Development Commission decided that the current situation did not allow acoustic waves to be used as weapons, and later the installation fell into the hands of the Americans. In the secret documentation of the US military, it was recorded that those who were closer than 60 meters to the installation were exposed to such an intense effect that they were instantly killed. However, the American researchers also decided that the effect of such a weapon is questionable. It could not be of great military importance because the radius of action of the installation is small. Sound installation had another name, acoustic cannon, but neither of the names did not bring success to the installation. It is now widely known that sound waves of low frequency cannot be directed in the desired direction by means of a beam. Only ultrasound can be given conditional directionality. But it does not have a huge negative impact on the human body. Richard Wallauschek, who invented his acoustic cannon, was not aware of these features, or he was not fully aware of the effects of high-frequency waves, so he persisted in working on his invention. But it was only in January 1945 that it was finally created. It was not long before the end of the Second World War. The Research and Development Commission took a look at the final results and came to a disappointing conclusion for the scientist that the usual machine gun has a much greater efficiency, and it requires not such a huge expenditure. In general, the sound cannon did not take root in the Third Reich, and there was no time for it at that moment. Although it was originally intended to become a formidable Wehrmacht weapon of retaliation, for a while the sonic cannon was forgotten. It was remembered again when the space age began. Space exploration involved a great deal of research. There were many doubts, disputes among scientists. Many did not finally understand how the space environment would affect the human body. Doubts arose about the fulfillment of astronauts' duties in conditions of strong vibrations, which inevitably arise during the launch. Then, NASA recalled the developments that were carried out in Nazi Germany. Scientists carefully familiarized themselves with the secret developments of the sound cannon and conducted additional experiments. As a result, it was possible to determine the psychotropic frequency. Its parameters were equal to 19 Hz. At its influence with intensity of 155 dB, the irradiated person started hallucinations. Scientists from the United States then seriously thought that they could find a way to create infrasound weapons. There were even created some theoretical developments. But it was not easy to put these ideas into practice. Currently, psychotropic acoustic weapons are still being developed. They are being realized in different countries. However, there are still not created methods of wave emission which would have sufficient efficiency and act on the required range. It is very difficult to create an oscillating system, the range of which will be below 20 Hz, and it would have enormous power. NATO troops used an acoustic bomb, but it was short-lived. An infrasound weapon should have a very different effect. Perhaps it is for the best that a highly effective type of such weapon has not yet been created. Many weapons have already been created to destroy humans, but that doesn't stop anyone. Scientists continue to work on their developments, and the authorities continue to give them orders to create the greatest weapons of our time.